I wanted to just like start fucking making some videos. So one of the easiest things for me to talk about is one of the things that got me into doing a lot of this work anyway, and that's doing drug checking. So like one of the first things that got me into even being curious about harm reduction was doing a bunch of drugs that I thought were all the same, and then wondering why it felt different every other time. So 2010, I took a number of ecstasy pills during Electric Zoo Weekend, which was a music festival that is, a really popular known music festival here in New York City. And I had about 3 different pills, one of which didn't work, or at least I didn't perceive it to work. A half of one which did work, and then another one which just felt different. And when I say work, I mean it felt like what I anticipated the MDMA to feel like. I had definitely had MDMA before, so I knew what MDMA was supposed to feel like. Sometimes it was not the same effect, but I didn't care. I was fucked up. That's all I cared about. I was having a good time. I wasn't nauseous or feeling like I was dying. A lot of it was methy, and I was okay with that because all I needed was some fucking energy and enthusiasm, euphoria, all of that shit. And I needed to stay up till 6 a.m. or longer. But yeah, being a raver, going to festivals and things of that nature is what got me into being curious about this type of stuff. And drug checking was one of the first things I kind of discovered due to coming across the then ecstasydata.org website by Googling, ecstasy pills that I had. So like pink star ecstasy pill, blue star ecstasy pill, yellow star ecstasy pill, blue dolphin ecstasy pill, whatever I was encountering, and realized that there was a whole website that would post test results of what was inside of those pills that were sent into them. And then was it realized that sometimes it wasn't just MDMA, and sometimes there was no MDMA. And that actually made me very curious about more drugs. Not all of those drugs felt nice, but that's kind of what kind of pushed me more into this harm reduction territory of, well, damn, if there's like random shit in these drugs, people need to know about it. Why is nobody talking about this? Like, surely people are aware of this, right? Surely people are aware that some of these ecstasy pills or whatever that they're selling isn't what they are assuming it is, right? So anyway, in the news recently, as you can see, as this article is dated December 1st of 2020, so that was, several days ago, that New Zealand is temporarily passing laws so that drug checking can be performed at festivals. And here in the US, it's very difficult to get anyone to even agree to having harm reduction, just basic harm reduction on site, let alone checking illicit substances. Many other countries are much more progressive than us. I've had the first word that comes to mind is luxury of being able to work alongside some of these drug checking agencies, that essentially do the same thing as Dance Safe in the US, but can do so at a much broader scale. So you have festivals like Shambhala, for example, up in Canada, they have Shambhala Music Festival, where Anchors is on site doing drug checking. When I went to do drug checking with Anchors in 2015, they were just using like the broadest array of reagents and other consumer friendly drug checking products that were available, from, they were using some dance safe reagents, they were using some easy test reagents, which, I will do some videos around the different reagents and the different brands and kind of like give my advice around those things and just like some knowledge around those things. But for now, I'm just like informing you that Anchors was basically using a bunch of brands. They were also using Test Kits Plus, which I think is Canada-based. Easy Tests, I believe, is Netherlands-based. And then obviously the Dance Safe brand is US-based. And so they were just getting, compiling all of the reagents that they had access to, as well as the the main tests that they were getting from Easy Tests were their purity kits, I believe, or maybe they got those from Test Kits Plus. I don't know. Let me just say this, that purity tests are blatantly illegal in the US. People are already worried about ordering reagents, and I don't want to go on too big of a tangent here, but ordering reagents, like the majority of, technically on a federal level, reagents are in no way illegal. However, state by state, the laws vary, and I believe there's only about 10 or 11 states that are very specific about what they consider drug paraphernalia and do not include what reagents tend to fall under categorically. So most people can get away with having reagents. There's no reason for anyone to not be able to obtain a reagent. And, unless you get like busted with having other drug paraphernalia and the reagents with you, which just like you were already fucked anyway. If you've got like a scale or like a crack pipe, and then you've got drug checking kits. Yeah, so their drug checking program at the time compiled a bunch of different, consumer-friendly drug checking resources, and so we would just do drug checking with a bunch of different reagents, commonly used for, but sometimes if something looked a little sus, we'd use a different one. Now we've gotten a little bit more specific about how we decide to choose which reagents, and that's something I'll explain in another video. But basically, we would just do the standards panel of 4. If something looks sus, we might pull out some of the other reagents, like the Frody, which is now more readily available through vendors like DanceSafe, and be like, oh, this actually isn't MDMA or MDA. This is actually looking something more of the, family of benzofurans, which can test very, very closely to MDA or MDMA or any of those MDX type chemicals, but are a different family of drugs entirely. So, there are different reagents that are better at signaling for different molecular structures. So we had those. And then, there were all these upgrades because fucking Canadian government sees this as valuable. But yeah, so basically, we do the reagent checking, give our best interpretation of the results to the festival goers, and send them on their way. And, these lines were like long, really long. And it was definitely sanctioned. It being sanctioned allowed people to come observe what they, what they might have in their drugs. And if there was anything that was particularly alarming, we'd put it up on this billboard that was like our bulletin system, which is even more advanced in some places. Like I think in Portugal, they have a whole fucking electronic billboard, a billboard that normally dumb shit would be advertised to you in Times Square, but it says drug checking, advisories. But we had a nice little bulletin board. We'd update hey, we've been getting lots of people in Sanctuary who took these mushrooms that were in this sort of baggie or container, and they're very strong. So we're warning you, or hey, that yellow Bumblebee tablet that was being sold as 2CV is being sold as 2CT7, and 2CT7 has these type of effects that are way more risky for you to consume in the manner that you might consume 2CV. But now they have grants from the Canadian government to get really high tech equipment. Basically, I think they have some level of access to HPLC. Not fully sure. I mean, I don't think you can bring an HPLC spectrometer onto a fucking festival grounds. Like, that thing is gonna get busted. It's not made for outdoor use, I'm sure. Not to mention, it's probably bigger than it's definitely bigger than this desk, that's for sure. This desk is about a little bit wider than my shoulder width. But yeah, so they definitely have a Bruker FTIR spectrometer, a Bruker Alpha. An FTIR spectrometer uses infrared rays, basically laser beams, and does all this scientific shit. So it reads those frequencies, and it's this one is MDMA, this one's MDA, this one's 4-ACO-DMT, this one's methamphetamine, this is Johnson & Johnson baby powder. Yes, it does actually show up in the library search results. Because most of these machines are for pharmaceutical companies to use, commercial products, to check for any contaminants they don't mean to have in their products, stuff like that. Quality control is basically what a lot of these machines are used for. And we've, co-opted a lot of it to be used for drug checking. So we don't put bullshit into our bodies while we're putting bullshit into our bodies on purpose. We don't want accidental bullshit, just intentional bullshit. But yeah, Shambhala is world class for this. I mean, definitely in North America. I don't know about maybe the entire world, but they definitely are the top agency for doing this type of work in North America. And now we have New Zealand on board. New Zealand, is basically allowing the laws to be a little bit more lenient to allow this to happen. And it says currently they already operate in a legal gray area. All of us operate in a legal gray area. But now they, are basically, but now the law is such that they are protected a little bit more. So, with that being said, we don't have access to that type of shit in our homes. We don't have access to, honestly, sometimes we don't even have access to the information. So I'm going to go a little bit more in depth about all the different types of drug checking, some of which I've already vaguely mentioned, and then continue to break it down further and talk about the reagents that people can actually buy online. And spoiler alert, just buy Dance Safe kits. And I will explain why another time. Not because I volunteer with them, but because it's basically the better quality product. But again, I'll talk about that more later.